Hello?
Okay, yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, it works. Great.
Nice. Subtle.
Sick.
That's really cool.
And for today, we have Pip Bourdillon. Yeah, so Pip is a portrait and fashion photographer based in London. She's worked with commercial clients from Netflix to Adidas, and her editorial work has been featured in publications such as the LA Times and Sunday Times Culture. She captures moments through creating intimate bonds with her subjects and finds the best images are created when you chat more and shoot less. Pip looks to capture emotion in her imagery by forging a close relationship with her subjects, leading to warm, honest, and engaging imagery. So we'll begin with a sort of 15-20 minute talk by Pip, and followed by a sort of a roughly 15-minute, 20-minute talk interview by myself, and afterwards we'll open up to audience Q&As. So also, if you happen to have brought any work with you, like prints or any photos on your phone or laptop or anything that you would like to get informal feedback from, we're happy to do that. And also, you're welcome to join us at the end for any sort of conversation as well. So thank you, Pip. We'll hand over to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Pip. As Sophia just said, I'm a fashion portrait photographer based in London. So I thought I would begin by just explaining how I kind of got to this career. So I originally was interested in photography when I was about 12 or 13, and I remember saving up for a camera from Argos, and every weekend me and my best friend would just do photo shoots. So we would plan them from the very beginning. Like, she wasn't a model, we just did it for fun. And I loved it, and I would like edit them afterwards on Photoshop. And it was just a really nice time because we would just kind of shoot with no end goal. Like, there was no thought of doing it as a job or if money was involved. So it was just a really nice way to express my creativity. And then I kind of forgot about it for a bit. I was a teenager, was interested in other things. And my dad is actually also a photographer. And so I assisted him a little bit when I was a teenager, but it wasn't that intense. Like, I just held a reflector. I wasn't a great assistant. And then I went on to study advertising at Bournemouth Uni, which I'm not actually sure why I chose advertising thinking about it. But I realized when I was there, I was a lot more interested in like the art direction, visuals of the campaigns rather than the actual marketing side. And I was studying the marketing side. So it was good. It was beneficial, but it wasn't necessarily what I really wanted to do. But I think from that, it gave me a really good idea of branding, which I think if you're freelance and you work for yourself, it's super important to be able to brand yourself because you are kind of a product that you're selling to people. So that was really good. And then after that, I went on to do entertainment publicity, that was very exciting at first because all the clients were like film and TV. So it was very fun. You got to go to like screenings and premieres and stuff. But it was hard work. Like, it was long hours. I didn't love it. I don't think I was very good at it. So after about 3 years, I was just fed up and I just didn't feel very creative. I felt like I was a bit like stifled and I was in an office all day. So then I quit that, but I was living in London, so I had to pay rent somehow. So while I was deciding what to do, I was just nannying, dog walking, just kind of doing like odd jobs for about 6 months. And yeah, I was trying to figure out what to do. And I remember reading this thing by Alan Watts, the philosopher, and he said, if you want to be happy, then you have to think of your career as if money is no object. You have to do something you would do for free. So, which that is a very privileged concept because obviously money is a big object. But I thought back to when I was a teenager and when I would just shoot at the weekends with no end goal. So I thought, okay, I'll give photography another go. Because growing up, it never had seemed like a feasible career because, I mean, everyone had an iPhone, Instagram came about, Facebook. So it just seemed so oversaturated that it didn't seem plausible. But then actually the introduction of Instagram actually meant that there's way more work now because brands need imagery. Like, it's literally the age of content. So there's more work. There's just as much work now as there was, say, in the 90s, which was kind of the golden age of photography. So then I got a job assisting at a photo studio in London. which is really, really good if you're just starting out, because it's part-time consistent work. And if you're at a good studio, you get to see like these amazing shoots, so you can see all the lighting setups and you can observe like the crews and who does what and that kind of thing. But it's like really long hours. It's like early mornings, late evenings. The pay is terrible. So it's a short-term thing, but I would say it's really beneficial to do. And I also started assisting other photographers as well. And again, that's beneficial for the same reasons. You get to see like how the photographers interact with the subjects, what kind of lighting setups they use, like how they speak to clients, that kind of thing. So I did that for a bit. And then I tried to build my portfolio, because you can't really do anything without a portfolio. And for that, I needed models, because I've decided I wanted to do fashion portrait, and I needed models. And that is it's very chicken and egg, because no models want to work with you unless you have a portfolio, but you need them to make it. So I would try and find them on like weird websites like Freelancer Club, and it just didn't go well because they don't have an agency backing them. They have no need to like turn up to the shoot. So there were so many times when I would like set up a shoot and they would just not turn up, or they would cancel. So it was really hard to find them at first. So I ended up just shooting like attractive friends that I had, or I would just go up to people in the street and just ask to shoot them, which I didn't like doing, but actually was very handy to build a book. So once I had a couple of them, I could then approach a modeling agency, and then I could say, do you have any new faces that you would like testing? So then they would send you a package, and you start off like at the lower end of the agencies. And then once you've got a few of them, you can get higher, and then you can start working with better agencies, better models, and then your book's better. So then after that, I was able to actually start pitching and doing actual photography jobs and become a freelance photographer. But it's tough. I mean, it's a very bitty journey. Like, you have to really, really slog at it. And I feel like there's a lot of people ignoring your emails. There's a lot of like hard work that you're like, why am I doing this? Like, it just seems pointless at the time, but eventually it does. All the work does build up. So I thought I would first talk about lighting, because I feel like whenever I used to see photographers' work I really liked, I just had no idea how they were lighting it. And I always found it so fascinating, because you can kind of tell from a photo how it's been lit if you know. You can look at the catchlight in their eye, the little white dot. But also from assisting people, I've found that you can be on set and they'll have like 7 different lights, and it's like, it's really interesting to know what does what. So this is a beauty brand I work with a lot. This is called Dr. Sam Bunting. And I'm actually really lucky because I'm on a retainer with them. So I basically shoot all their content, which is so lucky for a photographer. You really kind of want that consistent work. And this kind of lighting setup is really popular with like skincare brands, beauty brands, because it's just very like clean, fresh, very bright. So for this, I would have, so there would be me, there would be a big Opta softbox behind me, there would be a reflector just underneath the model, and then either side of the model we have 2 polyboards. So polyboards are these large polystyrene boards that are black on one side and white on the other. And if you have the black side facing the model, it will give like a really nice depth on their face. So it will kind of highlight, say, like the jawline and the cheekbones, and it will stop it being like too blown out. And then if you have 2 stripped soft boxes behind the model, that will light the white background, because with the white background, if you don't light it, it's going to be like kind of a grey colour. So it almost gives them like a backlit kind of effect. So as you can see, it's like very like clean and white. So that's what I would use for a lot of like beauty kind of shots. And then this was like my first big job. This was a campaign for Netflix. And I genuinely don't know how they found me. I don't know how I got this. So I can't give advice on it, because they just emailed me one day and it was really lucky. But this is an example of a really simple light setup. So this was actually on location in a house. And basically the mood board they sent me, it was like it was supposedly to be shot in like a really gorgeous, like high ceiling house. It was like outdoors in LA. And the place we went to was like this house in Surrey and it was raining and like the ceilings were low and it was really tough. So you can't really have like a huge lighting setup, and also it's really fast as well, so you don't want to like overcomplicate things. So for something like this, I literally just used softbox to camera right, reflector, and it's quite like a no nonsense, very simple setup if you're on location. And then this is for editorial. So whenever I shoot editorial stuff, I actually way prefer to do it on film. And usually commercial clients aren't as keen on film because obviously they like to see what's happening. Like it's quite scary because you just shot a whole campaign and they can't see it. But I personally way prefer the look of film, and I love shooting on it because it's literally the most exciting thing you can experience as an adult, getting your film back. It's very expensive though, but I do think it's worth it. So this particular lighting is something I'm literally using for every shoot at the moment. And again, it's quite simple. So I'll have the model reflect on. I pretty much always have a reflector underneath them because it just gives like a really nice pop in the eye. Then I'll have black poly again, or even like a black reflector. I'll use a continuous light on film just so I can kind of see what's going on. And then I'll also use window light. So with this one, you get from the black poly, you get that really nice shadow on the face, and then it's lit from the side, but then also from the front, but a bit stronger on the side. So it's kind of, it gives a bit more depth. And if you don't have access to a window, which most of the time you don't in a studio unless it's like a really nice one, then it's this is the same lighting setup but without the window. So this is literally just poly or just dark area to their side and then continuous from the right or the left. And yeah, and it's just again like such a simple setup, but is really nice for depth. So then I thought I'd talk about getting work, because I feel like everyone has lots of advice in photography, but if you can't get work, then you can't do it. And it's like the hardest, I think it's the hardest obstacle to get over. So a lot of work I get it from pitching. So a lot of editorial work, they usually find me through Instagram. So that's very lucky. And that's why I do feel inclined to post maybe like a few times a week, which is annoying, but is necessary. But you can't rely on clients just finding you, like just coming across you. So if you want to find people you really want to work with, pitching is the way to go. So for this, I created a pitch deck. So you basically just have a basic concept. You include a mood board, you include locations. So for this particular one, I just said, I'm basically traveling to Lisbon. Would you like me to shoot some content for you while I'm there? And I reached out to about probably like 30 fashion brands, and this only one replied. But that's all you need. One is fine. And they were really nice. They were like, they're a jeans brand based in Amsterdam, and they're like the most sustainable brand on the planet or something. And they were keen for that. So then I would send them, then I would talk to model agencies out in Lisbon, and I would send them some packages, and then they selected the model. And then from there, they kind of trusted me to like find the location. They sent me all the clothes. And then we shot it in Lisbon. And it was fun, but it was super stressful because I hadn't been to Lisbon before. So I didn't really know my way around. And also I was very used to having a team. So even like hair and makeup, you can kind of bounce ideas off them, having an assistant, like they carry your kit, but it was literally just me and the model. So I needed to like carry all the clothes. The only time she could shoot was midday, which as photographers, you know, is such a bummer because it's so harsh. So we just had to find lots of shadows. And yeah, it was really fun. But I think for things like this, it's better always to have an assistant or even just like a friend with you. And in the end, they actually didn't like the photos. But it was because they thought the model looked really young. So they chose the model. So it's not my fault. But this kind of thing is a really good example of, if you're going somewhere, just tell them that you're going there and get a job. So next week I'm going to Barcelona, and I just emailed a dress brand, and I was like, I'm going to Barcelona, would you like me to shoot any content? And they were like, yeah, sent me the dresses. So now I've got like a half-day shoot while I'm there. So it's a great way to like combine traveling, holidays, and work. So it's fantastic. It's a really nice thing to do. And also, if you want to shoot for like brands like these, you basically have to create the work you want to shoot. So if you kind of don't copy them, but if you create work in the style of that brand, then they're way more inclined to want to work with you. Okay, so these are some challenges that I think photographers face. So, should you ever work for free? That is a super common question. And I think, yes, you should. It's a bummer, but you should. Because at the start of your career, like, you don't know what you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I can't expect people to pay me for the work when you're just learning. And when you do things like test shoots with models, it's collaborative. So you're not getting paid, the model isn't, the hair and makeup team aren't getting paid, but you're all gaining something for your portfolio. And the reason you do all this is to then get paid for actual campaigns. So even though it's tough at the start and you probably need other jobs to make up for it, it's definitely necessary. And even now, if I do because editorial budgets are just so bad these days because no one buys magazines, sadly. For example, last week I shot an editorial and the whole budget for it was $250. And I could have either just kept that money or I just spent it on like a really nice studio. So the shoot was like the best it could possibly be. So, and things like that, you have to kind of weigh up the pros and cons of making money or creating something that looks really good for your book to make more money in the future. And also it depends on the talent as well. It was a singer last week. It was Sigrid, the singer. So I knew that that would make money from that eventually because I can then sell those photos to magazines. And if it's a big name, then it looks good on your book. And people hire you if you have like a talent, as in if you shot a talent, people just seem to like that. So yeah, working for free is a bummer, but is necessary sometimes. And that brings me on to pricing yourself, which again, I think no one really knows. Like no one tells you any of this. Because even if you do this at uni, like no one's going to talk about money. I think people are weird about talking about money. But you basically need to, I think women especially price themselves way too low because it's all a confidence thing. And I remember when I first started shooting, I would shoot like wedding proposals and like tiny like barbecue events and just like jobs like that. And I would charge them like £80 for the whole day and be like, oh, wow, I've made £80 from shooting. That's so cool. And to me, that was a lot of money, but it's really not. Like, you have to understand that what is good money to you really isn't to anyone else. And if you're shooting for a brand, you have to think about what they're benefiting from your content. So, for example, if you shoot for a dress brand and their dresses are £200 a pop, if you charge $500 for the day, they'll only have to sell like 3 dresses for your whole day rate. Like, that's crazy. So if you're working out money with brands, we're at a point now where it needs to be in the thousands. Like, it shouldn't even be in hundreds anymore, because when it comes down, what it comes down to is that you're advertising, you're working in advertising, you're doing a campaign. And I think photographers forget that because we're so used to terrible rates for editorial that you forget that you're like a huge part of their whole marketing concept. So you should be paid for it as well. And yeah, that brings me on to imposter syndrome, which I think is super common. And again, probably I'd say affects women more, because it's just, I think things like kit and being on set and that kind of thing are notoriously, males are trusted more with it. And I get it. Like when I was assisting, the male assistants were more trusted just because they're physically stronger, so they could carry lights, and they were taller, so they could like pull down coloramas and stuff like that. So it is tough, but I think a lot of it is just all in your head as well, because no one knows everything. If I'm on set and I don't know what a light is called, I might feel self-conscious and like embarrassed about that, but no one on set knows everything. Like, you'll know stuff that they don't know. So I think it's super common, and also I think everyone's just pretending anyway. Everyone's just hoping they don't get realised, that they don't really know what's going on. And just a word on kit, because I feel like it's not always clear what is necessary, and sometimes when you're starting out you might feel unprofessional because you don't have like a massive kit. And I know that people say that a great photo isn't made by kit, like you can't put it all on kit, but obviously a great photo is made from like light, composition, subject. But if you've got better kit, that's gonna elevate it just a little bit. So even if you just have like a DSLR, you have like a zoom lens or like 2 different prime lenses, I'd say a laptop and a tether cable. The more I work with commercial clients, the more I realize that everyone likes you to shoot tethered. So which is where it's connected to your laptop, so it comes up while you're shooting. And it's a really horrible way to work because the client and the crew are all like over your shoulder, just looking at every shot and judging it. So it's really not fun, but it does make them happier and it is necessary. And also for you, it's a lot easier because you can just see a lot more than if it's on the back of your camera. So yeah, I think that's really all you need to begin with. And then I actually have found the more photographers I work with, they actually rent more kit than they own anyway. And also it's beneficial to buy a light for yourself just to practice, because I feel like when you're in a studio, it's very intimidating and there's so much kit going on. Whereas if you just have a light at home, you can just practice by yourself and be comfortable with it. And then if you wanted to get into film photography too, I would recommend just something like a Canon AE1, because it's all mechanical and you can learn about like aperture, shutter speed, that kind of thing. And it takes a lot of practice. So it's good to just experiment a bit. But again, it's not something to like rely on too much with kit. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, everyone. Awesome, yeah, thank you for that. That's really cool. I really like that you kind of didn't just talk about, all your, each individual photo and what you did. It was more
it's boring.
Exactly.
Yeah, no one cares.
Well, I mean, you can do. Now I'm showing them, but no, it was really cool because it was like a nice sort of insight into how to get started into the career, which I don't think gets spoken about very much especially when I've seen guest speakers or we've invited guest speakers. They don't tend to talk about that, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, I was going to start with my first question was going to be like, hopefully you can see from these slideshows here that one of the reasons why I invited you actually is because when I looked at your work, I got the impression that there was sort of a nice sort of sense of simplicity in your photos, and but like a sensitivity as well, and like I think warmth is the word I get from it as well. So it's almost like there's not. I don't feel like they're trying too hard to be like to make kind of some kind of dramatic statement. I like this kind of simplicity behind your photos.
Oh, thank you.
So even though the fact that what I saw is that contrast in the fact that it's fashion, but it's kind of down to earth. Does that make sense?
Cool, yeah, I like that.
So it's not like, it's not a cliche. It's kind of like a nice, sort of, like I say, a warm kind of imagery to them.
Thank you.
Kind of comforting to look at. So can I ask what your artistic or photographic influences are, and do they have that similar aesthetic that you kind of comes out in your images as well?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out, I would look to a lot of older photographers like Richard Avedon, David Bailey for the black and white portraits, and that's actually what I base a lot of my lighting on now. And I always preferred, and someone like Terry O'Neill, because I loved the life and movement in the photos, and that's something I'm really trying to work on now because I shoot a lot of film. It really slows things down, which is a good thing. Yeah. But also I do miss kind of that spontaneity that, say, he had in his photos, because it was really fun. Mm. But then also in terms of more modern people, I love like James Harvey Kelly, who does he shoots a lot of Ralph Lauren campaigns, and it's just really crisp and calm. So I'm trying to do a mixture of both. I'm trying to get the quality of his crispness and the colors and the grading and all of that kind of expensive look, but then partner that with fun expressions and spontaneity and movement, which is a hard thing, but I'm trying to take bits from lots of people, basically.
I like the results, so yeah.
Thank you.
So you mentioned obviously most of the time, presumably you shoot with professional models who would be comfortable getting photos taken of them. But are there any sort of tricks that you necessarily use to make them feel more comfortable around you and to kind of let them drop their guard a bit?
Well, it depends on the shoot, because sometimes on like bigger shoots you actually don't get a load of time with the model because they're in like hair and makeup or they're just chatting to their publicist or whatever. But when I have smaller shoots, or if it's just like me, like tests, yeah, or like it's just me and them, then I probably won't start shooting till like halfway through our allotted time, because if you have that time to chat, it's so much better. And like, okay, so King there, when I shot him, I got my friend who was just happened to be there on the day, just got to chat to him while I shot. So half of the photos were of him, like they weren't usable because he was chatting, but now and again he'd be like, and his eyes would light up because he was literally in conversation, it wasn't false. So that's always nice if you can do that. But if not, I'll usually, especially if I'm on film, like I could ask a question and then I'll snap the response, or sometimes I count down and I'll take it before I've counted down, so it's more of a spontaneous shot rather than a pose. Also, you know, it works just telling people to fake laugh, even though that doesn't seem like it would work, but it always looks good. People are good at that.
Yeah. I mean, is there like a certain, how is there like a certain thing that you'd say to make them laugh, or you just say like just?
Sometimes it depends. Sometimes it flows and you are just genuinely having a good time, and then they do just laugh. I don't have like a thing I'll always do, but yeah, and if it's not a vibe and it's not that fun, you can ask them to fake laugh, and then they feel awkward, but it looks good.
Yeah, the only reason why I mentioned that is because that Humans of Cambridge guy,
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you saw what he said. He said his cliche thing that he always says to people is, because they're all going to be complete strangers, they're not models at all.
Yeah, that's hard.
Well, 9 times out of 10 they'll probably say no if you ask them to take a photo.
Yeah.
But for those that say yes, he'd say one of the things he said he always does, and it's a bit of a cliche now, but it works, is imagine you've won 1 million potatoes or something like that. From that, okay, and then you kind of...
Yeah, kind of a confused laugh. That's quite a good expression.
Exactly. If they get it, they're like, okay, I'll just laugh, yeah. But I also noticed that some of the photos, I don't know if it's clear on the screen, but like, and again, I don't know, maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me, like, I almost see like a greenish sort of tinge or hue to them. Is that by design? Or?
That is the type of film I shoot on. Okay. So that is Kodak Portra 400, and that actually naturally has a very greenish hue, and sometimes I won't touch it. Like this, my friend Kit, this is... Okay, it's changing really fast. This I changed it, okay, so you can't see it on this as much, and I tone it down depending on the subject, but it's quite, because the opposite to the green is like a purple, so that's so something like that I would go more purple. If it's like a darker skin tone, it's more flattering, but then the green is a bit fresher. So yeah, that's very observational though. It's quite subtle.
The reason why I picked up on this is that normally, I don't know how you made it work, because normally the only time I get green tinge on sort of digital images is when I have like really horrible grain. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh god, I had to turn it to magenta because I personally normally hate green on my images because they look horrible, but on yours...
Well, I think on digital it doesn't work.
Exactly.
It's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Goes like, how does she make it green and actually look nice?
Well, sometimes I shoot both, so if I'm trying to make my digital look like the film, I'll have to up the green and it looks like shit. So it's hard to get right.
So it's kind of like it's distinctive to me. Like, it's kind of nothing, haven't seen it normally.
Oh, good.
Before, so yeah, I noticed it. Also, similar to that, I noticed you don't do a lot of black and white images either. Is that my choice? Or is that more of an editorial, like they prefer colour, obviously, or is that?
I've never been asked by a client to do black and white, but I everything I've shot, I've always tried it in black and white and then been like, it looks better. Like the colours there's something about the colours that work. But recently I've actually been getting more into black and white, and I've done a few portraits, and there is something really special about it. Like you focus more on the expressions, there's more depth. So I think, and I love it for, like, obviously all the old photographers from like the 60s and 70s, I love that's all black and white. So, and I love like party black and white, like Greg Williams, that stuff's really fun. But yeah, I for some reason I don't think it work. My style looks better without it, but I would like to do more of it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So next question was, would you ever be interested in doing sort of personal, non-commercial sort of passion projects, as they call it? And if you, in the future, and if you would, what might you do you think?
Yeah, so I've actually been thinking about this more recently, because when I have free time, if I'm not get like doing commercial jobs, then I do testing, and that is kind of a project, but there's no theme to it. It's just random people. So I've been wanting to do more of like a big project I can plan for a while. So I really wanted to go, because I went to uni in Bangkok for a bit, and I was really good friends with all like the Thai students, and it was this amazing community, like, because it was a really nice uni, and they were very like proper and behaved really well and very like quiet, and then at nighttime they were wild. So I really wanted to do like a photo story on like that side of that nightlife. But I keep meaning to go to Thailand, and it's hard to pop there. And yeah, I've been wanting to do more travel. I think travel stories. But you should really, if you want to do a story, you're meant to shoot like what you know in your direct environment. So I should probably do that. It's probably easier.
So I think you mentioned in one of our sort of previous chats, and you kind of alluded a little bit to it earlier, that you face some challenges as a female photographer. Is there something else more you can tell us a bit more about that, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I think now more than ever, it's actually not. It's getting better. Obviously, it's getting better. Like even for things like test shoots, I genuinely think it's easier for me because I have male photographer friends, and they're like, it's hard because when you're doing a test shoot, like the model gets your address, she or he comes over, and you just shoot at yours. But like as a guy, it's very easy to be creepy, and I'll be like, as a girl, I can kind of bond with them more, and they're more comfortable with me. And if I say wanted to shoot lingerie, like that's chill, like they're fine with that. But if you're a guy and it's just you and them in the room, like that there is a weird vibe there, even if you don't mean for it to happen. So sometimes I do actually think for more intimate shoots, it's beneficial to be a woman. And the other day when I did a shoot with Reebok, not Reebok, Adidas, God. I got it. And it was an event for their new sports bras, and it was all like very female focused, like inspirational women, and they went for me because I am a young woman. They said that specifically. So in that sense, I probably lucked out, but in another sense, I'll probably lose out. I won't get a job like shooting for a car brand or something stereotypically male. Or sometimes even bigger jobs because they just see men as being more authoritative to a bigger crew. But that is changing. Like I don't know, it's kind of equaling out, I think. It depends which way you look at it. But and also it's the whole imposter syndrome about like being on set with different kit. And I don't know why that's a gendered thing, because I don't know what that is. But I think as long as you just do your homework and like learn about kit and take the time to do it, then you've got nothing to be afraid of.
So it's getting better, but there's pros and cons either way.
Yeah.
There's actually stuff that we might not realise. You think, okay, because a lot of in the creative industry, one of our previous speakers was Bruno Johnson, and he, he was saying how it's quite difficult as he hid the fact that he was a black photographer for a long time.
Oh, really?
And then a few years into it, he revealed it, and he actually, because the amount of support and the amount of work he got actually dropped, apparently.
Oh, it got dropped. Oh, that's so sad. I thought you were going to say oh,
no, that's
God.
That was the sad thing. So it's I guess with female, any creative, I guess there's disadvantages, but like you say, it's nice to know that there's advantages that we might not be aware of as well. So yeah, it's quite interesting to know.
Well, I think sometimes people think I am a man actually, because my name's Pip, and over email people usually assume that's a guy. And someone wrote an article about me which was really nice, but they said I was a man.
I think I saw
Did you? Yeah, it's like the one article I have about me, and they're like, yeah, he lives in London. So maybe that's helping me. Who knows?
So yeah, actually, I'm kind of going on from there. If you could start again knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently? And secondly, what advice might you give to other aspiring, I would say female photographers, maybe any photographer, but maybe specifically female photographers?
That's a good question. I think I would assist more. I would definitely assist more, because I've assisted like a handful of times, and every time I've done it, I've learned so much, like an insane amount. But I think, but then when you start progressing in your own career, it feels funny to assist. Like I reached out to a photographer recently to assist, and she was like, "Why do you want to assist me? Like you're getting work." Like it feels a bit it feels a bit digressive, even though it's not. So I would definitely do more of that. What else would I do? I think I would be more confident, I think, in just like in emailing people, because it's so scary, because that dealing with the idea of rejection is so crippling. But actually it doesn't matter, like it's just an email, like you just need to reach out and like drop into people's DMs and stuff, and just not be afraid, because there's nothing to really be afraid of. Worst case scenario, they just don't reply. So I'd be braver about that. What was the second one about?
Advice to aspiring female. I want to in brackets.
Yeah.
Not to exclude anybody.
I think what I would say is, you think about work that you like, that you enjoy looking at, what you like about it, and make work that you would want to see. Because if you want to see it, someone else is going to want to see it. And also you need to have a very clear idea of who you want to work for. If you're going into fashion, for example, you need to choose, say, 5 brands. No matter how huge they are, you need to work out who they are, because then you're moving towards something, and you need to analyze their shots. You need to see what kind of style they like, what kind of models they use, what kind of poses they like. Because if you just emulate that, like eventually, and if you don't attract them, you're going to attract clients that are like them anyway. So I think just have a really clear idea of what you want to make.
Okay, sure. I actually just thought one more question that wasn't on here, that suddenly came to me, was why did you choose fashion in particular, and as opposed to, say, documentary or journalism? What was it that drew you to fashion?
I think I always found it very exciting. Like, I like fashion. I'm not fashion obsessed, but I've always bought magazines, and I've always loved like the glamour of it. And sometimes I feel guilty that I haven't gone down a documentary route, because I think documentary is a lot more, it's kind of more respectful. Like sometimes fashion feels silly, and I'm like, what am I doing? Where's the meaning? Like, where's the depth? And that's what I try and do more with portraiture. But it's just fun. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I'm like, maybe I just want to have fun. Maybe I just want to plan a good shoot, make some nice images, and have a job that I enjoy. So yeah, that's kind of it. Just enjoy it.
Good way to end it. I'm going to pass it on. Has anyone got any questions that they want to ask?
How do you know which kit you can use? Like, if I just have a simple camera, how do I know whether I need a proper lens, or like a light, or whatever? Where do you find those information?
So I think it depends what you want to shoot, but you can usually with lenses. I mean, you can usually experiment. I rent a lot of my stuff on a website called Fat Llama, and it has like all kinds of kit, and you can get it for like £5 a day sometimes. So I just rent different kit, and you can usually tell with lenses like the difference. Like, you can see it in the images. And in terms of lights, it's kind of when you need one. So if you're shooting in natural light and it's all good, then you don't necessarily need one. But if you want to do more studio work or stuff on location inside, then you need one. So that's when you start researching into it. But yeah, it depends what you want to shoot.
To ask, for your film photos, what camera are you using, or do you switch between different ones? Because I know you mentioned the Canon AE1, so I was wondering if that's what you use.
So I kind of learned film photography on the AE1, and then I moved on to the Pentax 6.7 II, which is a medium format. So it's not 35mm. It's not 35mm. It's 120mm. So it's a bigger negative. So it's better quality, and oh my god, I love it so much. And then I also used the Mamiya RZ 6.7 Pro, which is incredible, and it's like a beast of a camera. And it was originally used for like studio work, but now people kind of use it out and about. And I also use, but they're all manual focus, and they're quite clunky, so it's a bit slower. So if I want something a bit like more spontaneous and speedy, then I'll use my Contax G1, because that is autofocus, and it's like that big, and it's got a little flash. Yeah, I kind of switch it up.
I noticed that you kept a lot of the black borders as well for a lot.
Yeah, I really...
Was that again a sort of
So that is just when they're developed, it just comes with the black border.
And the choice not to pop out, was that quite like was that like more of an aesthetic that you were going?
Yeah, because I really like the black border, and actually someone emailed me today. I shot an editorial with this actor a few weeks ago, and they were like, "Why have you done black borders on them?" And I was like, "You don't get it. That's the film negative." And they asked me to crop them all off. So not everyone likes them, but I think they're quite cool because it feels a bit more like rustic in a way, like they've just been.
And it's different for every photo as well, so it's like
exactly. Like I obviously didn't add these on because they're all wonky. But yeah.
Something I should have asked you at the beginning is how old were you actually when you got into it?
When I quit PR, I would have been maybe like 24. So I'm 27 now. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I've only been doing it like 3 years or so. But yeah, so the first year was a real slog, and it was like just quite tough, and had part-time jobs. Second year, kind of balls rolling a bit, and then the third year, that's kind of when things start. You felt like people were replying to your emails, and like people would email me, so it felt like things were kind of kicking off. So I'm hoping it just increases.
This is pretty good for a few. Only a few. I think I said this
Thank
before.
you.
I was always like blown away, like that you can achieve this in such a short time, and this amount of work as well. So yeah. So no, I think, thank you, Pip, for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for talking about how your experiences were, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Really went in on the website, didn't you? Deep. I haven't seen these photos in ages. Decent.